Here we go. Get your coffee ready, or tea lovers, and let's start with this workshop. So first of all, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on this workshop. Today's workshop, this is another workshop from Code Labs Academy, and it will be a CSS crash course. So after today, you should be able to build your first and amazing website. So before we jump to the workshop, I will take like 5 minutes for some introduction about me, about myself, and about Code Labs Academy. So my name is Omar. I'm a full stack developer and bootcamp instructor at Code Labs Academy. I will be your host today for this workshop. And I am with my colleague, Dania. She will be my co-host. So she will be answering some of your questions in the chat and taking notes of those of other questions. So we leave them at the last of this, the end of this session, so we can have a questions answer part. So something about me. The thing that is not really interesting is that I have a degree in computer science, so I come from a computer science background. But yeah, I did not start with that in college. So before that, it was self-learning. And I actually started my career as a virtual reality developer. And then through my passion in more creative stuff and like user interfaces and things like that, and my other passions for teaching, I changed my career into web development and teaching. And my role at Code Labs Academy, so beside my role at the development team, another role is just to provide the practical knowledge that I got from my previous experience in various companies, and that to help the bootcamp students and give them that knowledge so they can succeed in their chosen and professional career path. So small introduction about Code Labs Academy and who is Code Labs Academy. So we are basically an international edtech startup. We offer a lot of technology bootcamps from web development, user experience and UI, data science, and cybersecurity. And these bootcamps are actually accessible to everyone. So we do in-person and we do remote bootcamps. And we also provide other educational and career advice services. And our goal here is just to help the students to break into the tech industry with other professionals. So currently we are actually a team of 23. We are spread through 7 different countries, which is really amazing. And our main office is in Berlin, Germany. So about the things that we actually offer financing plans. That I will go in details in the next slide. And these financing plans should be able to help you to fit your budget. Another thing that we provide, and I already talked about it, so we do in-person and we do remote bootcamps, and they are available in different schedules. So it's on part-time and there are full-time bootcamps. So for the options, you can literally choose anything that fits your schedule. So as I said, these bootcamps are actually beginner friendly. So you don't need a pre-requirement to join any bootcamp. And through the process, the only important thing is that we do a pre-work before every bootcamp so that everyone can start on the same level. So for the financing options, just to help our students, we actually have partnership with GoCardless, Noma, and Kotanda. And Noma is for UK-based students. Kotanda is for other students. And with our partners, you can actually, instead of paying to the bootcamp in one time, which can be somehow a little hard, you can actually pay in up to 36-month installments. And these are our financing options. So for the upcoming workshops, at the end of this session, you will actually be redirected to our website. So these are old ones, but you will be redirected to our website and a specific page in our website, which has the upcoming workshops. This is not the first workshop that we do at Code Labs Academy, and it won't be the last workshop. So once you be redirected, you can see more details about the upcoming workshops and even register from there. And for our bootcamps, we actually have right now, we have 4 upcoming bootcamps in 4 different fields. So in data science, user UX, UI, web development, and cybersecurity. Basically, they all will be starting from January. and they are both available in person in our Berlin office or in remote. And now let's jump to our workshop today. So just a quick rundown, just to understand what we are going to do today. So the first thing is I'm going to show you like what you need to know about CSS. Of course, I'm not going to show you everything there is about CSS because these things are learned through practice, but through today I will show you just what you need to know, and we will go deeper in our CSS in action. So we will basically take a front-end practice challenge, which is a specific, a modern website, kinda. I will show you the website later. And then while doing our demo and doing the CSS in action, please don't hesitate to put all your questions in the chat, and you will see a lot of properties of CSS. And after that, I will just give you a small introduction about Tailwind CSS. And show you just the transition between CSS and Tailwind CSS. So we will not go deeper in Tailwind CSS. I will just show you a glimpse of it, like how it works in action and how it can be really faster. And just let's stay at really faster for now. And of course, at the end, there will be a poll. We will ask you about Tailwind, and in case you are interested in another workshop specifically about Tailwind and all its features. And at the end, we will have a quick exercise. So we actually prepared like 5 exercises for you, and we will be doing them today. So later on, when the exercise, once we are done with the CSS in action, you will be sent into these exercises, and we will have like, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe a 15 minutes or 10 minutes, just to have a little practice on what we saw today. Awesome. So since I saw the poll and some of you don't have a pre-knowledge about HTML, so I'm going just to show you like how does HTML work. So HTML is basically a hypertext markup language, and it's basically you telling your browser, which means telling Chrome or Opera or Mozilla, you are telling it, this is the structure of my website, and these are the elements of my website. So for example, as you can see the result here on the right. So I'm telling the browser that I have a section, which is my navbar. And inside that section, I have my logo. And inside it, I have my navigation. And inside my navigation, I have 3 links, which are what we do, who we are, and order now. So basically HTML for the section, you need to tell the browser that this is a section tag. And there is a div tag, which means I want this space for things that don't have semantic definition. And for navigation, for example, there is the nav tag. For links, we have the a tag, and so on. So as you can see, the second section, we have actually a main header, which is h1, a header of level 1. And if it's secondary header, if it's third header, you can do h2, h3, etc. And then we have a paragraph. And the definition tag for a paragraph is p. So basically, HTML is the semantic definition of the structure of your website, which means navigation, links, heading, secondary heading, paragraph, a button. So each semantic definition has a tag name in HTML. And this is all you need to know about HTML now. I will show you later on the classes and the IDs for every tag. And this is basically what you need to know just to go into CSS. But of course, it will be a lot better if you go to HTML after this workshop in details. And as you can see here, once you give your HTML into the browser will only show the structure. And as you can see, this is not a really good looking website. So it's basically like a document, or maybe a Google Doc, something like that. And it just show your structure and elements one by one. And here where CSS comes in handy. So basically with CSS, which is a styling language, I love to call it a communication language. We can call it a styling language for now. It's basically you telling the browser that, yes, I have this HTML, I have the structure of my website, and I want to style every element of this website to fit my taste. So once you add CSS to this HTML, you can now have the styling of your website. Now, another thing I need to mention is that CSS is not a programming language. So you actually don't need to be a programmer to understand CSS. It's basically just a styling language, something to communicate with the browser. And I'm going to show you how does it work. And what I love about CSS is that it's the creativity use case of it. So basically, once you want to try something, there is not just one way. There are many ways you can do that. And it's different between each person. So each person has his own creativity and his own mindset, and he can implement the same styling, but in different ways. And that's what I love about CSS. Awesome. So what you need to know about CSS is basically this. And this is what you need to only know. So to work with CSS, so let's imagine we already have our HTML ready. And then you will be selecting every element of that HTML and give it a set of properties. So this is the syntax. You give it a selector, which means you can select element. And I'm going to show you the different selectors. And then you start naming your properties. So property 1, it might be a color, and the value will be red. So I want this element to have the color red, etc. And just to show you an example about that, let's go through the first way to select an element, and that's using the tag name. So if you add in your HTML, if you add a heading, a main heading, so that tag name is H1. Now I want to select all the H1 of my website, and I'm going to give it the color, which is my first property. I want it to be green. Green is my value. And I want the font size, my second property, to be 24 pixels, which is just a unit for the size. And on HTML, you will find that all the elements that has the H1 tag name, they will all have these properties, which is the color green and the 24 pixels font size. So you can select H1, you can select a P, which means selecting all the paragraph. You can select all the tags, A, buttons, etc. A second way of selecting is selecting using the class name. So a class name, for example, I have here a class that has the name container. And as you can see in my selector, I added a dot before that. So when you say dot container, you are telling the browser that I want to select all the elements that have the class container. And I want to change the color to red and make the font size 20 pixels. And inside your HTML, as you can see, I have a div tag. I have a class, which is container. And now all the elements of that container, which means all paragraph or buttons, they will all have a color red and the font size of 20 pixels. Now, of course, if we take this example here, so not only the div can have the class container. So maybe you will have another tag, which is section, for example, and it has also the class container. Maybe you will have a button that has the class container, a main heading, H1, that has the class container. And once you apply this styling, all those elements that have the class container, they will all change the color to red and the font size to 20 pixels. And this is actually the most used selectors in CSS. And the third type is selecting using an ID. So an ID is different from a class because only one element can have that ID. So it's basically a unique. Even if you're in your HTML, if you add, I don't know, the first element, you give it an ID of logo. The second element, you give it an ID of logo. So basically for the browser, the other ones don't have an ID logo. So only the first element is the one who has the ID logo. And to select a logo, you basically add a hashtag before that. So here I'm telling the browser that I want to select all the elements from HTML that have the ID logo, and I want to make the color purple and the font size 20 pixels. And in my website, I have a div, and I give it an ID equals logo. And since I have only one logo in my website, so that logo, which is Code Labs Academy, it will have the color purple and the font size of 20 pixels. Now, of course, using these three, so the tag name, the classes, and the ID, we can do a specific kind of composition, and maybe we can select like the children of a class, a child of a class, the first child of a class, etc. And this thing, we will see them in our demo. Awesome. So right now, about the properties. So we basically need to understand all the properties that we have in CSS. And the first kind of properties, which is groups, it's called the box model. And this box model is really important. I'm going to show you like just an example. So in my HTML, I have a button, as you can see on the right side, and its name is text. So in this button, my content, as you can see in red, is basically the text. And then the button has the border, which you can see there is a small border or a stroke. You can name it anyways. And it's basically like something black. And that's my border of my elements. Now, between my content and my border, I have the padding. So the padding is basically the inner space between the content and the border. And if we go to the margin, it's basically the space, the external space. So from the border and so on. So I'm going to show you just a quick example about that and how we can use that box model to style all the elements in our HTML. So for that example, I'm having here two buttons on the left side. So button 1 and button 2. So right now, there are some HTML elements that already has default values for padding. So as you can see here, for example, there is a small padding between button and the border. And this is actually default value by in HTML. So right now, I'm trying to enlarge the button and make the size bigger. So I can even like scale it in width or height, or I can add an inner space between the content and the border. So here I'm updating the padding, and I'm putting like a padding of, I don't know, 16 pixels or 8 pixels, which is the unit. So once I give the padding this value, my buttons will be enlarged. And that's how I make the buttons bigger. And then, as you can see, the buttons are actually stuck together because there is no external space to them, to both of them. So to make a space between them, I need to update the margin, which is the external space. So for button 1, for example, and button 2. And here there are two ways to do that. So I either add a styling to the first button and add a bottom margin, which means the margin in the bottom, or I can go to the button, to the second button, and I add a top margin. So it's either the button 2 will push the button 1, or the button 1 will push the button 2 to the bottom. And to update the border of that element, you simply update the border and add that stroke. You can make the width higher or lower. And this is basically the box model. It's not used only in buttons, but you can use it in all the other tags. Awesome. Now, just to see everything in action, the box model is the only thing that I need to explain, like a view of them. But yeah, so in our hands-on, we will actually see a demo of the box model. How does it work? We will see the different selectors and all different properties. And then we will see one of these properties, which is the animation, another property, which is the position, just to position your element. And the last thing, which is really important in the last years, which is the media query. And this media query is actually used to make your website responsive, because you can see users that get into your website from a mobile, which is a small screen. There are ones who get to the website from a laptop, which is a big screen, and you need to do a styling for all of them. So media query is basically a setup in CSS where you can put a specific styling for only specific screen size, and that's it. So right now, let's not just talk about it. Let's go straight to the hands-on. So we are going to do this practice from front-end practice, which I loved. And this website actually has a lot of other practices. You can see it's give you like the color palette, the resources that are used in this. And we are basically trying to mimic this website here. So this is just a small look about it. And just to show you the final result, let me just, I'm gonna take this so I don't. So this is the website that we will be making today. So what I did is that I took this website here, which is called Instrument, and I did some quick changes. So I changed the name to Chocolate. And yeah, I even changed these the assets into chocolate based things. So this is the website that we are trying to make. And as you can see, it's kind of something modern, and it looks like it really minimalistic. And to make this website, you only need the basics of CSS. So as you can see here, it has all the animations here and animations for button. And we will go through everything we talked about in the properties. Awesome. So let's get started with that. And let me just show you here. By the way, I will just check if you can see everything, and the screen is, can you all see the screen? Awesome. So let's get back to that. So the first thing is how to link your CSS to HTML. So right now I have my website ready. I will remove this. And this is my website without the CSS. So this is only the structure of my website. Now, there are actually 3 ways to link your CSS. So the first thing is basically, let's do it here. So inside your tag, you can, wait, let me just zoom this. Yes. So you can write here style, and you can give it the style that you want. So for my container, for example, I'm going to do this property, which is a background color, and I'm going to make it red. And right now, I just changed the styling for my container. And this is the first method to add your styling to the HTML. So inside the tag name, you can add this attribute, which is style, and then write all your styling here. And this might come handy to do fast things. But imagine you are trying in the future, you are trying to update the styling. You will need to go to that tag and try to look for that tag inside a huge bunch of code, because HTML will be with the CSS. It will be a huge load of code, and it will be a really hard to update the styling. So the second way to do that is basically to add a style tag here. So I add style with the closing tag, and here I can select this one. So my div here has a class of container. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select this container. So dot container. Here I'm selecting the class. And I will give it the first property, which is the background color. And I will make it red. And here, as you can see, it will have the same effect. This is also like to do fast thing, but it will have a huge load of code in your file. So it will be really hard to maintain this. Now, the third way, which is the mostly used one, is basically creating a file. So I will be creating a file here, and I will name it maybe style2.css. That, and then I'm going to link it. So in your HTML, between the head and before the closing the head, you will add this tag, which is link, and the rel will be style sheet. Are telling him that this is a style sheet, and then you add a href, and inside the href you will give it the directory of the directory of your file. So right now I have my HTML here, and I have my CSS here, so I can literally just give it that directory. So it's dot slash and style2.css, and we close the tag. So there are no changes. But if I go here and I do the same thing, I will select my container, the element that has class container, and I will do the same thing, adding a background color of red. Now, as you can see, the styling is red. And right now you have your HTML in a file, and you have your CSS in a different file. So you can put all your CSS here. So if you are trying to update your website, if you are trying to update the content, you can go to the HTML file. If you are trying to update the styling, you can go to your CSS file, and you will see everything, how we can see, formatted in the CSS format. Awesome. So let's remove this, and let me just, awesome. So let's start with the CSS properties. So first thing we need to do is, actually, let me save this. Yeah, so let's start from scratch. So as you can see here, let's just show you the website. What is it? Awesome. So as you can see, all the website is black, has a background of black. So right now what I'm going to do is that, oops, where is this? So right now I'm going to select all my HTML, which is using the tag HTML and body. So I will select both of them. And right now I will add a background color, which is the first property, and let's make it black. So right now all my content here is black. And let's just take a quick look at it in. So this is a small screen actually. And if we take a look at the big screen, this is my website right now. Awesome. And as you can see, all the text is now becoming hidden, because it's not hidden, but it has the same color as the background. So let's change and let's do another property. Awesome. And let's change the text color. So to actually change the text color, you need to use the property color. And let's give it a value of white. Now all my text has become white. Awesome. And as you can see here, so all my content is actually styled on the left. So everything is on the left. And if I do something here, let me just do something. If we do like a huge screen, so all the content will be here, and we will have this empty space right here, and it's not actually really good. So what we are going to do, we are going to use another property, and for that property, let's go. So actually, let's add it to the container later. Let's finish up with the HTML and body. And right now, I will try to change the font of my content. So right now, this font is actually not really good. And I'm going to show you like how to add a font inside your styling. So there is a website I like, which is Google Fonts. And let's go to Google Fonts. Boom, boom. So fonts.google, let's go to Google Font, eat this. And actually, I have two selected fonts I love. So the first one name is Pasero. Pasero. Yeah. So this is my first font. And once you select it from here, so this is my font. And let me just take the regular one. Let's take this one. So once you get to select regular, so I will select my regular font, and you should see it here. So this is my font, Pasero 1. And here you will have two different ways to link your font. So you either add this link to your HTML, or we can do it with CSS. So you add this import. So right now I will be importing this font. Awesome. And let me add another font. Did I add it? Yeah. So we add another font, which is Poppins. And let me just delete this one. And for Poppins, let's go with here. Let's take the import part. This. So right now I did nothing. I just imported my font files. Now what I need to do in CSS is that I will change the font family of my content. So as you can see here in CSS rules, they already telling you that you need to change the font family and to Poppins sans serif. So I'm going to do that in all my HTML body. So what I need to do is that I will write it down, font family, and let's do it a Poppins and sans serif. Awesome. So my font did not change, but once I save, you will see that my font has changed in my website. So this is the property for changing the font family. Of course, you can change everything, like font size, for example. We can make it 15 pixels, something like that, and everything will work fine. And this is actually the tip that I wanted to talk about. So just to know what are the other properties for CSS. So for example, let's take the font size, for example. If you are using this tool, which is Visual Code, it's actually had an autocomplete. So if you have a CSS file and I write here font, so it will give you all the font properties here. So the font weight, for example, and of course you can't see that, but I will do something. So if you go to font weight, and it will give you the different values for it. So you can give it a number value, or you can have a bold, light, and so on. So let's make it bold, for example. Now it's bold. So for example, you need to change the size. Let's do a font size. And it has different values or other units. So we can say larger, medium, smaller, or we can give it a value here. So this is just show you the different units that you can use. For example, if I try to use another unit, not pixel, so maybe a rem, which is the most used in font in text. So if we do like 1 rem, this is the 1 unit, and let's do 2 rem. So this is twice the size of it, of the text. And that's how you get to know all the other properties. But of course, there are some properties that you can't learn with only this. But this is only the basic properties, which is changing the size, the color, etc. But for the position, for the display, that's what we are going to see in this workshop. Awesome. So let's actually stop here for the body, and let's move to another thing. Let's keep it this way, and I will just show you my HTML here. So the first thing that I have is I have a container for all my content, and I will be styling this container so that my view looks good here. So right now, as you can see, I have a lot of empty space here. Well, this is, oops, I did not save. Let me save. Awesome. As you can see now, all my content is right here. But if you go to other websites, let's go to Code Labs Academy, for example. So this is the website, and if I do an inspect, you can see that, for example, this content is actually right here, and there is empty space from the left and from the right, and other content. Let's go, for example, to another website. I don't know, something like any website, Facebook. One second. Let's see if Facebook works with it. Yeah. So actually, as you can see here, the content of Facebook is actually here in the middle, and there is an empty space in the left and empty space in the right. So once you go to another screen, the space will be smaller, and it gets smaller and smaller every time until it reaches the mobile version. So the other things we can do them with media query, but right now we will just simply style our global container. And to do that, let's go to our container. So to select our container, my container here, this is my container, and it has a class of container. So right now I'm going to select my container, and let's start giving it the property. So right now, for example, if I have, like, for example, a huge content here, like this is a huge paragraph, it will take the whole line. But I don't want the whole paragraph to take the whole line. I want it to stay here in the middle. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give it a max width, and width is basically the horizontal size of my element. So for the max width, I can give it a value of, I don't know, 1,300. That will be good. And if you go to the website, you can see that all my content for the text, it was stopping here. And now all my content is basically getting inside that 1,300 pixels. And the next thing I need to do is basically to move my content to the center. And to do that, I'm going to actually use the, what I'm going to use? Yeah, I'm going to use the box model. So right now, if I go here, and for the box model, as I told you, there is the padding and the margin. The padding is the internal size, and the margin is the external size. So let's start with the padding. I can add the padding here, and let's give it a value of 16 pixels. So this is my padding, and as you can see now, all my content is inside the container, and I have 16 pixels right here. Awesome. And another thing I can change is the margin. So basically, if I give this a margin, I will show you the big website first. So this is my website. And if I give it a margin let's say margin left. So I'm selecting the left margin and I'm giving it the value of 500 pixels. Like this, you can see that my content moved by 500 pixels to the right. But I don't have a specific value because my screen size can change. So what I'm going to do, another thing, this is margin left. We can add a margin right also. So let's do a margin right and give it the same value. Now I have 500 pixels here and 5 pixels here. So this is the left margin and margin. And this actually was changed in the latest version of CSS into margin inline. So margin inline is basically the margin left and the margin right. And now I can give it a specific version, a specific value, which is 500 pixels. It will work the same way, or I can make it auto. And auto, I'm leaving it to the browser. So the browser can give it the same size from the right and from the left. So right now, even if I add this right here, so it will be auto. So I will have 1,300 and I have 500 pixels, something like that. And this is actually the margin inline. So for the padding, I don't actually need the top and bottom. Let's actually move here. Yeah, so I don't need the padding on top and the padding on bottom, or we can leave them. It's not the same thing. But we can also add padding inline. And with this, it will only give us 16 pixels on the left and on the right. And that's all. Awesome. So the next thing, so this is our container. It's already ready. And now we will start working on our navbar. So to select a navbar, as you can see here, I have my first section and it has the class navbar, right? So I can select it with this one. So I can select the class navbar and I can give it a background color, for example, and it will be red. But imagine we have another navbar. So for example, I have another one with the same class and it's here. So now I have two navbars. Actually, no, let's remove this. Let's show you an example and let's add it before the container. So right now I have two navbars and the first one is on top and the bottom one is one belonging to container. So what I'm going to say, maybe I can add an ID here instead of a class, right? And inside the selectors, I can, instead of adding a dot, I can add a hashtag. And now I'm selecting only the navbar that has this ID. Awesome. Another thing I can do, I can keep the class. And let's keep the class here. This is just to show you another kind of selecting. And now I'm going to select the element that has the class navbar that is a child of the element that has a class container. So to do that in CSS, you need to add the first one, which is the parent. So my parent is container. And then you select the child, which is the navbar. And with this, I am selecting. So the first element is not a child of container, so it will not, the styling will not be applied on it. But yeah, the other one is the child, and I will have styling only on this one. And through the workshop, I will continue with this. So I will be selecting the parent and selecting all its children. Works fine. So right now, let's start. Let's remove this background color and let's go to something. Let's start with the display. Awesome. So one of the displays I'm going to show you is the flex display. So actually, before moving to that, let's add a padding to this. And let's do, I don't know, let's do 32 pixels and 0 pixels. This is just to show you another kind of padding. So if you add only one value here, so if I add only 32, let's remove the first one. It's annoying. That's awesome. And let's keep the background color so that you know the effects where it's going. Awesome. So this is my navbar. And right now, I'm adding a padding of 32. So the 32 pixel will be adding on the top, on the left, on the bottom, and on the right. So if I want, if I add this one, now I'm telling to add 30 pixels on the top and the bottom, and 0 pixels on the left and the right. So I don't need space here. I only need an inner space on the top and the bottom. And you can even add 4 values. So I can do a top spacing. Then the right one will be 0 pixels. And then I will add the bottom. So it will be 32 pixels again. And then I will, or maybe we can remove this and add only 8 pixels. So 8 pixels on the bottom. And then I will add maybe 16 pixels on the left. Spacing, there is a space between them. So right now I have 32 pixels here on the top. I have 0 pixels here. So if my content go through all the navbar, it will reach the end of the navbar. And then I will have 8 pixels here on the bottom, and then I will have 16 pixels here. So I can do that simply by, let's do the first one. So 32, 0 pixels. And now I'm having inner space only in the top and the bottom. Awesome. So right now I'm trying to add a display to this. So I will just show you my HTML. How does it look? So right now I have a section, which is my navbar, and it has 2 elements. The first element is my logo, and the second element is my navigation. So this is the first element, and this all is the second element. Now, if I add a display value to it, so let's do a display, and you can have a lot of displays. So there is the flex box, the grid, and line block, etc. So today I'm going to show you the most used one, which is the flex. So if I add flex here, now I am adding flexibility to my elements inside my navbar, and they will all be flexible. So another value for the display that comes with the display is the justify content. So right now, if I do a justify content, and you have a lot of values here. So the default one is flex start, which means all my elements of my navbar are in the beginning of the navbar. So if we do center, for example, now all my elements will be centered in the middle. And with this, I centered my elements. Another value that I really like is the flex. Actually, it's space between. So once I add this space between, I have only 2 elements here, which is the logo and the navbar and the navigation, and all those elements will be moved to one will be moved to the beginning of the navbar, and the other will be moved to the end, and there will be space between them. So if I do that, I will have my navbar like this. Make sense? So there is another value also for the justify content, which is space around. So if I do a space around, there will be actually space between them, and there will be the same space. So actually the half of that space on the left and on the right. So if I do space around, you will see that space between them, and half of it will be on the left and half of it will be on the right. And this is the space around. You might ask me, in what cases we need that? So imagine you have, for example, I don't know, let's do a mobile UI on Google. Maybe I would find something. Images, and yeah, so here for example, it looks really small. Yeah, so here for example, I have my bottom navigation here. I have 3 icons, and actually there is a space between them, and there is a space on the left and space on the right, and this is basically used the same way. So I have my navbar, I have my 3 elements inside it, and I added a flex display for this element, and I added space in the middle and on the sides. So it's space around. And with this, I will have the same effect. So in the website, there is actually no use for that in this website. So let's go with space between. Awesome. So let's remove this background color. Now I have something that looks like a navbar. So I have my logo on the left side and the other elements on the right side. Now I will go through them one by one. So let's start with the logo. So right now I will select the class logo that is a child of navbar, that is a child of container. And to do that, let's go with container, navbar, and logo. So I will change the property for the size, which is the font size. And I will make it, for example, it's 32 pixels a lot. Maybe a lot. Let's do 22 pixels. Now my text, my logo got bigger. And what I'm going to do also is that I want to differentiate the logo of the other elements, because the logo needs to be something unique. And that's why I added this first font, which is the Pasero. So I will do the same thing, like font family Poppins on all elements. And then I will override this styling with this one. So I will do font family. Let's name it Pasero sans serif. That didn't change. Container, navbar, logo, font family. Is it Pasero? Ah, it's not Pasero. It's Pasero 1, I guess. So the name of the font is actually Pasero 1. Let me just check. Yeah, it's Pasero 1 right here. So right now I added a font family to this logo. And as you can see, this actually, although I did this one, font family, for all the elements of body, and the logo is actually one of those elements, but actually when the browser reads the syntax of CSS, it actually goes sequentially, one by one. So the first one will be HTML and body, and then it will start reading the other styles, and then it will find another style. And this style will override the first style that we added on the body. So right now I just added this one, and let's keep it at that. So the next thing I will add is basically styling for the navigation items. So to do that, I have actually here, I have my nav items, and I have each nav item here. So every element here is a nav item. Now what I'm going to do is just the same thing. Let's copy this one. I'm selecting navbar, which is a child of container, and then I will select the first child, which is nav items, and then I will select the other child, which is nav item. So this is a child of this, a child of this, a child of this, and what I'm going to do here is basically, so let's start with, so right now I'm selecting every element here. So I'm selecting what we do, I'm selecting who we are, and I'm selecting order now. And I will add styling for all of them. So let's start with the box model. Let's add a margin so that I can add space between them, just like we saw in the slide of the buttons. So I will do a margin. I can do a margin left, for example, and I can make it 16 pixels. Do that. And now you can see there is a 16 pixel space between this one and this one. Another thing I can do is basically adding a margin inline. So if I do a margin inline, I will have 16 pixels here and 16 pixels from here. So it will be 32 pixels here, 32 and 32 here. 16 here, pardon. Awesome. So right now I added an inline text. And the next thing, I'm going to change the font size. And let's make it 15 pixels. So this is just a value. Awesome. And then actually, when you go to a link, you actually don't see it. You can see that the cursor I have, this is the default cursor. And right now I am on top of a text. So my cursor changed. Awesome. And this is only because, like, if I go to A here and I add an href, is HTML related, href. So right now you can see that it's changed to a link, and my cursor, once I go on top of that element, it's changed to hand. I can actually delete this. So maybe we have a card, and you want that when the user hovers on top of it with this cursor, the cursor needs to change. So that property is actually cursor property, and there are a lot of cursors. So we can do a crosshair, for example. And right now, once I go on top of everyone, there is a plus, which is the crosshair point. So the hand pointer, the hand cursor is actually named pointer. Right now, once I go to all the links, I will have the hand pointer like this. Awesome. So this is for the pointer, and let's leave it this way. So should I go with it right now? Yeah, let's move to another thing, just so we don't go, we don't stick with the properties. So right now I'm going to show you something called a pseudo class. And I will select the same thing here. nav item. And so every item in HTML has two pseudo classes. The first pseudo class is the before, which means the content before the nav item. And the second class is after, which comes after the element. So to select that pseudo class, you simply do 2 points here. And you can see that there are many ones. And let's go with before. So right now I'm selecting an element that is inside every link here. And I'm selecting the before one. So the first thing you need to do is changing the content. And this content is basically can be anything. So there is a default value. And if you don't change that content, you will not actually see the before, right? So you can do, for example, you can do an emoji there, an emoji that comes before the link. You can add, for example, if you have a list, you saw that those black points, dots before every list item, you can make it as a content, which is the before. And in our case, I want it to be empty. And I will show you why in a while. Awesome. So right now, I want to create one effect. And I'm going to show you the effect actually before we jump to that. So let's add our styling. And as you can see, if I hover on top of this element, you can see there is a line that goes inside the item. And that line actually doesn't have a width as a start, but once I hover, it will go through all the elements with the transition. And with this, I will just show you how to work with position and how to work with transition to create an animation. Awesome. So let's change it back to style 2. Let's get back to our website. And right here, I'm going to, so the width for that element as a start is 0. So this is my width, and I don't have a width. Awesome. So this is the element. I will give it a height, for example, because this element is actually doesn't exist. It doesn't have a width. It doesn't have height. It doesn't have anything. And I will make it 2 pixels. So right now I have 0. Actually, let's not do 0 for now. Let's make it 100. So the width 100. You can give it a width, for example, of 100 pixels, which means that this element will take 100 pixel width, or you can do it with percentage. And here I'm telling it to take 100% of the parent element. So the parent for the before pseudo class is the nav item. And 100% is basically, I'm telling it to take all the width of the parent element, which is this item here. So let's leave it at 100% for now. And let's give it a background color. So for the background color, let's make it red or yellow. Anything would work. Let's do yellow so we can see it on top of the black screen. Awesome. And till now, you can't see anything because we did not add positioning to that element. And here I'm going to show you something about position, right? So I will start with this one. So let's go to the, or actually, no, not this one. Let's go with the logo just to show you how this position works. So right now, the default position for this element is the static one. So if I do a position static, nothing will change because that's the default value. But I can add a fixed position. And right now, my logo will stay fixed to the screen. So this position is relative to the screen, as you can see here. So it's fixed. And every position has a left and the right and the top. So I can do left of 500 pixels, for example. You can see my element is right here. Oops. So here's my element. And I can give it a top of, let's do 200 pixels. And let's change the background so you can see it. So let's do background red. And here is my element. And with this position fixed, it will actually be relative to the screen. So even if you scroll, it will always stay fixed in that position, and so on. And a use case for this, you might find it really helpful. So imagine I take all of this, right? And I will add it to the navbar here. And for the left, let's keep it the default one. I don't add the left. And for the top, I want it to stay on top, which is the 0. As you can see here, This is my navbar, and it's following me through all the websites when I scroll. And this is the use case. And as you can see, the display actually doesn't work because the default value for the width of navbar, it used to be 100% because it's a nav item. But yeah, I can actually add another width, and let's do 100% like this. And now all my elements, oops. So this is my 100% because actually I have the video taking the right space, and this will be fixed later on. So right now I can have my navbar and it will follow me through all the websites because its position is fixed on the top. So let's actually remove this like this. And let's go to another type of positioning, which is the absolute. And the absolute is basically works with another position, which is relative. So right now I'm going to add a position to my navbar, and that position will be relative. Awesome. So now I can add an absolute position to all the children of navbar, and they will all have a relative. They will all be relative to that position. So if I go to the logo, for example, let's do a position of absolute, which is another kind of position. This. So right now my position is absolute, and then I will add a left of let's do 600 pixels. Awesome. So right now my position for the logo is 1600 pixels to the left, and it's relative to my to the navbar position, and that's using the absolute. But it's not sticky to the screen because once the navbar leaves the screen, this logo will leave with the navbar. And this is what I mean by an absolute position. So right now we are going to use that same thing, which is the absolute. And by the way, you can add a button also. So if I do fixed, for example, right now it's fixed. And instead of top, I can add a bottom. And I can give it 500 pixels. Right now, my logo will be 500 pixels from the bottom of the screen. So every position here has a left, right, top, and bottom values, and that comes with it. And if I remove this, left and bottom will not have an effect because there is no position. Awesome. Now I'm going to use the same thing, but I'm going to use it with my pseudo class. So to do that, I will add a position here, which is absolute. This. And this is actually, you can see a glimpse of it, but actually my knife item is not relative. So I need to change the position of the parent of the pseudo class. So the parent of the pseudo class is the nav item. And right here, I can add relative. This. And now every position of this pseudo class is relative to the parent. So right now the default value is left 0 and the top is 0. But I don't want that. So let's add, let's keep the left at 0. And for the top, let's do, do 8 pixels, maybe. 9. And this is actually what's working with styling looks like. So sometimes you will be trying like some values until it works. So right now I have a top of 10 pixels and the position is absolute. So right now my element here, as you can see, it has a width of 100%, fitting the parent width, and it has the position of absolute to the relative position of the parent, and the top one is 10 pixels right here. So if you are trying to do an underline, you can actually, instead of doing top, let's do a bottom, and let's do 0. And this is an underline right now. So actually what I wanted to do is not, so I don't need to show this every time, but only when the user hovers over the nav item. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this one. Let's do width of 0. So right now it doesn't show because the width is 0. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this one. And let's add an effect. So the first effect I'm going to add is hover. So once the user hovers on top of the nav item, I will apply the styling to the before pseudo class. And here I can do width of 100%. So when I hover on top of the nav item, you will see that it becomes 100%, like this. But there is no animation because it happens instantly. And let's remove actually this one. Let's do 8 pixels here. And right now it's an underline like this. Now let's add a transition to that. So to add a transition, the transition actually works with the hover and the active effects. So there are many effects, but the most important one is hover, and you can check other effects later on. For example, for an A item, there is the active one, which means you clicked on it. There is the visited action, which means once you click the link and it takes you to another page, that link will be visited, which means you already clicked on it, and you can do styling based on that. But the most used one is the hover, which means once you put the cursor on top of that element. And to add an animation to that, we will use another property, which is the transition. So the transition has the first value of it is the which properties you want to transition to play. So for example, here I wanted to play only on the width, because I am changing only the width. Then I'm going to give it the duration of the animation. So let's go with something slower. Let's go with 2 seconds. So the animation will take 2 seconds. And then you will have the type of the animation. And there are many types, but you can do like an ease in type of animation, like fast one. So these values, you can actually look them up later on. So there is an ease in, ease out. Like people who comes from the animation background already know like what types of animation there is. There is a cubic with different values, etc. Awesome. So right now, if I go to on hover, you can see that the before pseudo class takes 2 seconds to change the width from the 0, which is the default value, to the 100% on hover. So right now it's take 2 seconds. And this is not actually really smooth. So let's change the 2 seconds to 0.3. And right now, 0.3 seconds. S for second. And right now it takes 0.3 seconds like this. So I can add, for example, here, I can add a color. Actually, not color. Let's change the background color, for example. And let's make it something. Let's go with red. Right now, you can see that it's changed instantly to red, but the width is the one who's taking the transition animation of 0.3 seconds. So if I want to apply it for both of them, I can add all this. And now this transition will be applied to all the properties that I will to change. So right now, you can see that it starts yellow, then move to red, like this. And it's actually taking 0. Let's do 3 seconds to show you how it works. You can see that it starts on yellow, then move to red. And this is actually the transition of the color and all the other properties. So let's go with 0.3, remove the background color, and this is our navbar. Awesome. So let's move to the next thing. Actually here, so just to stay in. So let's go to the next section. So this is our navbar. We are already done with the navbar. And let's go to the hero section. So this is my hero section, and this is the section that I'm talking about. It has a main heading, page 1. It has a paragraph, and it has a button. So let's start with the section itself. So let's go to container, this, and then I'm going to select the hero section because I gave it a class of hero. Awesome. And as you can see, let's just take a look at our front end practice. As you can see, there is a huge space here on top, which means that all this section will have a margin top here. So I will only change the value of the margin top. And to do that, simply we type margin top, change the margin top, and let's give it a value, for example, I don't know, just a random value. So right now I have a space on top of this element right here. And this is all for the hero content. And now I will change the styling of the inside elements. So I will do the same thing. Let's go with container, hero, and I will select the main heading first. So I will select H1. And as you can see, I selected the class. Here I selected also class, but here I selected the tag name, which means all the elements that have a tag name of H1 that are children of hero and children of container, like this. And let's try to change the styling, the size. So let's go with font size, and let's do 64 pixels. Right now, my content just turned bigger. Awesome. And the next thing we need to do is have a styling for paragraph. So I will just copy the same thing to go fast. And let's go with the font size of 24. So my paragraph turned bigger. And let's do, so actually here you can see it. But here actually my element stops, the paragraph stops here actually and not taking the whole space. So I need to give a width for this paragraph element. And to do that, we simply add a width to the paragraph. So I will add a width, and let's do a random value, 900 pixels. So here it doesn't look because it's actually taking 900 pixels. But if you go here, you can see that my element is actually taking only 900 pixels of width, and it's all in that contained in 900 pixels. Another thing we can do, we can simply, instead of doing width, let's do a max width and do 900 pixels like this. And this will work fine, but for mobile, so the max for mobile, for example, I have a mobile of 300 pixels, and it's actually more than 900 pixels. So I can do a max width of that. So let's keep it as a width, like this, and do a max width of 100%. And this is actually the use case for the width and max width. So right now I have a width of 900 pixels, but in case my 100%, which is all the screen, so for mobile, all this 100% will be 300 pixels, for example. 300 pixels is less than 900 pixels. So the max width will always be 300 pixels, and you will find all the content inside your mobile container, like that. Awesome. So another thing, let's keep, should we go with the button? Let's keep the button for later. Let's keep the button for later. And let's move to this element first, just to finish things up. So this element is actually a video element in my video container section. And I simply added a video here because I uploaded a video here, which is the food reel. And I add it as a source, like that. So I'm trying to give this video a styling because, as you can see, this video is taking more than the screen. It's taking the whole, like for the video, for example, if it's 1000 pixels, it will take 1000 pixels in width. And to change that, we simply go with, so I select the parent of everything, and then I will select the video section, and then I will select the video element, which the element that has the tag name video. And then I will give it a width of 100%, like this. So right now my width, my video will always stay inside my container in the 100%, like this. Awesome. So let's move to the other thing. Let's go to the website here, and here. So I have my video here, and as you can see, actually there is a width on top and the bottom, and yeah, we can add that. But let's move to another thing, which is the mission here, because actually you either add spacing to the video, or you add spacing to the mission. Or you can add a margin top to the hero section, and then add a margin bottom to the hero section. So everything works fine. So you need just to pick what works best for you. And this is why I say that you can do something in many different ways. So let's go to our mission here. And I don't know if I have a mission. Yeah, so I created just a small paragraph here. So let's select it. And let's go to container. Like this, and I have a section named mission that has the class mission, and then I'm selecting the paragraph. Awesome. So I will change the font size first. Oh, oops, where is the preview? Like this. So let's start with the font size, And let's do, I don't know. We do more than that. Let's do 32 pixels. Right now it has the 32 pixels in size, and then it will have, we'll add a width to it. So it always stays in 800 pixels. And then I need to do something, which is the text align. So for example, if I go to my paragraph here, I can add text align, which is another property, and it can be left, right, justify, or end. For justify, for example, since it has many lines, all the lines will have the same width. So there will be spacing between the words, just like a Google Doc text alignment. So I can do a center, for example, and right now my element will be in the center. And as you can see, it's actually in the center of the parent, but the parent is not in the center of the container. And to do that, we will simply add the same thing. So let's do a margin, something like that. Awesome. So we will add a top and bottom margin so that there is a spacing that we saw in the challenge. So let's do 120 pixels. And for the left and the right, let's do it auto. Right now, it has a width of 800 pixels, and it's centered in the middle of the parent, like that. And this is the mission. So the next thing, maybe we should change the hero section. So let's add a spacing here to the hero section. Let's go to the hero. I only have a margin top, and let's do a margin bottom. Right now I'm doing margin bottom, and let's do it, I don't know, 20 pixels, something like that. We can add 180 pixels, so we have the same size. And since they have the same value, we can actually do, let's do a margin. Let's do 100 pixels and 0 on the left and the right, and it will have the same effect. Awesome. And the last thing will be working on these sections. So if we take a look at our sections here, let me just take a look. Yeah. So we have an element here, for the image element, and we have our text here. And as you can see here, so this is taking maybe 60% of the width, and this is taking the other space. And for this one, it's actually reversed. So we can do that in many ways. The first way is using the grid display. And this grid display, I will tell it that I need a grid that has 2 elements. And in my HTML, I will have to add the first element on the left and the other element on the right. And for the next one, I will reverse it. But I'm going to do something kind of different. And I'm going to keep using the flex display. Awesome. So let's go here. Oops. Perfect. And let's take a look at our HTML. So this is my video section, done with it. The mission, done with it. And the next one is services. So every service has, so this class is the parent. It has 2 services. This is the first one, and this is the second one. And for each service, there is an image, which is this one, and there is my content. And inside my content, I have a paragraph and a button. And this is, you actually decide on this structure once you take a look at the website and how it would look. So once you take a look at our website, you will be thinking how the CSS will be working. And with that CSS in mind, you will be choosing what structure of HTML you will be choosing. Awesome. So let's start with the container, and let's go to services, and let's select every service in the services section. And let's just change the display to flex. So here, as you can see, I have the second element, and I have the first element here. And if I change the size of it, nothing will change, because I already have a width for the container, like that. I will do something else. So right now, if the image is bigger, it will take more space than the content, which is not what I really want. So let's start with this. And for each service, there is a space between this service and this service. So for each one, I will be adding a margin bottom property, and I'll give it a value of to go with 150 pixels. Right now, there is 150 pixels between all my services. Awesome. Now I don't want the image to take all the space, because this is how Flex work. All the elements is size is flexible. So the image already has a specific size, so it's taking its size, and what's left in the size, the element, the paragraph element will be flexed to that size. So as you can see here, the paragraph here is taking only this portion of the size, but the other one actually had more size than this one. Awesome. And so what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to select my image. So for every service, I'm selecting the image like this with a tag name, and I'm going to give it a specific width. So I want the width to be 60% of the size of the screen. This. Right now, all the image has that width of 60%, and the height is relative to the width. So the height of the image will be changed relatively to that. So both images have the same width, and now all my content here is taking what left of the size of the service, like that. Awesome. So right now, let's select the other one. So I have a service, and inside the service, I have the image and I have the content. So let's go to the content. Let's select this one. And instead of selecting the image child, I will select the content. And let's start working with the content. So what I need to do, actually, let's add the padding, since here all the content has padding from here and padding from here. And it's the same thing for this one. So let's add the padding in line, or padding left or right, as you wish. Let me just show you, yeah, like this. And in this padding inline, let's do 80 pixels. So right now, they both have the padding 80 pixels. Awesome. So let's do another thing. Let's align the text to the left, or leave it this way. It's by default aligned to the left. Let's leave it that way. And let's actually add a display, another display for the container. So for that, let's do a display. Flex. I'm using the flexbox display. And there is another property, which is the flex direction. So once you add a display flex, so let's add it alone. And you can see that the button will be in the same row with the text. And this is actually because the flex direction is by default a row. So if I change the flex direction, we have a row reversed. And if I do a row reverse, you will see that the position will be reversed. So the button will be first and the text will be second. But I don't need those. I will add a column. So right now I want one on top of other one, like this. And then I'm going to justify the content to the center. And actually justify content, so it works on the horizontally. So if the flex direction is a row, the justify content will work on the horizontal direction. So the center will be centered horizontally. But if the flex direction is column, so it's actually like this, it's rotated 90 degree. So justify content will be aligning the elements in the vertical axis. And with this, I just centered my elements in the center vertically. Awesome. So let's move to another thing. And what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to add another, I'm going to show you another use case in CSS. So right now here, I have the image first, and I have the text second. In the other one, it's reversed. And as I showed you, we have a flex direction right here, and we can make use of that. So I'm going to select the service here, add it right here. And instead, so the display is already there. So even the margin bottom, let's not override this. And let's do a display. Sorry about that. So the flex direction, it will be column, it will be row reversed. So right now they will be flipped. So the content will be first and then the image. But I don't want this service for all the elements. So I want the first element to have the image first, the second element, the image second, the third element, the image first, the fourth element, the image, and so on. And you can do that by simply selecting a service and using the nth child. And by selecting nth child, you simply give it an n times a number. So if I do 2n, it will select all the services that are children, all the service elements that are children of services that are the per number child, which means so 2 times 0, which is 0, and there is no element 0, and then there comes the element 1, and this is the element 2, which is 2 times 1, and so on. So the fourth element will be 2 times 2. If I want to do it another way, so I want this to be reversed, I simply do an impair. I will select the impair ones, and with that, so 2 times 0, which is 0 plus 1, which is 1. So I'm selecting the child number 1, and then this is 2n, and then 2n plus 1, which is 2 times 1, which is 2 plus 1 is 3, and so on. So let's do it just like the website, and let's keep it that way. Awesome. But there is something. Awesome. Yeah, let's keep it just this way. And as you can see, because I added the flex here, the button is taking the whole space, right? So I will be adding styling to all the buttons of my website, just to show you how to select all the elements. So right now I will do a button like this, and let's add a padding to it first, and let's do 16 pixels on top bottom, and let's do 32 pixels here. So right now all the buttons got bigger. Awesome. So let's add another property, which is the font size, which we already saw, and let's go with 16 pixels. So now I just added a font size to that. So let's add a width. So right now the width here is simple. It's a fit content, but the width here is taking the whole space because this element is inside a flex display. So all the elements will be flexed to their width. And I want to change that. I want to override that by giving it a specific width. So I'm not giving it a specific value, but I will do a fit content. So this is another value for the width. And fit content means that the width of the button will be relative to the width of the content with the padding. So right now, if I do this, you will see that all the buttons got smaller, like this. Another thing for here, let's do padding left, like this, and so it's better. So I'm selecting all the second element, and here instead of this, let's do a padding padding left. It does 16 pixels maybe, and padding right will be the same thing as the first one. So let's go with 80 pixels. Right now, for these elements, they have the padding left of 80 pixels, which means here. Let's even add the padding right to them, and let's do it with 16 pixels. So they will have 16 pixels on the right and 80 pixels on the left. And for the pair ones that are classed pair, so the 2n, they will have the left as 16 pixels and the right as 80 pixels. Awesome. So let's go back to the button just so you can see the button is not following the size because the size of the container stops with the paragraph right here, and it's not taking the whole size. So let's do a width with fit content. And as you can see, once I go on the button, my cursor doesn't change. So let's do a cursor and let's give it a pointer. Make it pointer like this. Awesome. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is actually do a hover effect. So I will do the same thing on the button, and let's do hover. So this is the hover effect, and I'm going to apply this styling once I hover on top of the button. Perfect. So once I hover on the button, I want to change the background color, and I want to make it yellow. Yes. So if I hover, it's yellow, and the same thing here, the same thing here. Nice. And let's do something else. I want to move, actually, when I hover, I want to move it slightly to the right. So to move it slightly, I will add a margin left from this side. And let's make it maybe 10 pixels. So right now it's moving on the right, and this one too. And another property I want to add for the button is actually called border radius. So if I do border radius of 80 pixels, you will see that the radius of right there. The radius of the button of the corners, it will be 80 pixels. I can do something smaller, like maybe 8 pixels, and you will have a small corners here that are rounded. Perfect. And the last thing, so that the animation doesn't happen instantly. So I will just add a transition like the other one. Let's do it for all. Let's go with 0.3 seconds. And let me try another. So when Visual Code with autocomplete, you get actually more animations. And this is type called the cubic desire animation. So I can select a random one since I don't understand them. I have no idea about them. So yeah, if you go here, you will see that the animation is smoother of the buttons. Like that. Awesome. So the last thing we see in CSS, of course, for the other properties, there are hundreds of properties, and it's basically based on use. So once you start working on your website, you will be like, I need to change, for example, I need to change something that we did not work. We actually saw a lot of properties today. Yeah, for example, I need to change the border. I want to change the border. So maybe you will go here and you just write border, and you will have all different cases or different properties for the border. And then once you click the width, for example, you will see that there is other. So here it's showing that it's only in values. So maybe I will do like 10 pixels, and you will see that, well, it doesn't look right now, but if I do border color, I'm going to change the color. You will see that I have now, right now, I have a border of 10 pixels, and the color is aqua. And as you can see, my button just changed. And this is actually how you go with the other properties. But in case you don't know how to use that property, simply you can Google it. Like, I want to change the border for a specific case. It will give you the property. And maybe, yeah, since we are there, there is an amazing extension for Chrome that I love. It's called Gripper. And I actually add it here. So if I go to Google, for example, I go to Google and I want to, for example, change border CSS. Not working like this. So I'm going to show you another example. CSS maybe. So this is the grepper tool, and it's actually give you a snippet of the code. So right here, for example, I'm trying to change the P, and it will give you this example here. So this is a border. You give the width, the type of the border, and the color. And here you want to change the radius. You can take this and test it out on your website, see the results. And once you see the results, you will know what each one of those does. And here, for example, it has different border styles. For example, you can see solid here. And this is a border style solid. So there are other kinds, and you can try them all. You can go with dashed, you can go with double. So for example, if I go here, oops, what is it? Border, yeah. So I'm going to add the border color to make it aqua, and the border style, I think they named it. Yeah, and it's solid. So right now I have this. I will add the width also. So I have a width of 5 pixels, for example. This is my board. This is a stupid color. Let's go with yellow. Like this. Yeah. This is my border, and maybe I will try other values. So I will take this. Let me go with dashed. Maybe. Let's do dashed. And let's see the result. And you can see this is the dashed effect that gives you. Maybe you will find a use for that. So the last thing we will see in CSS is actually the media query. And I saw a small question about it. So yeah, let's try it out. And so for example, I will do just a quick example here. And I will give the image. Yeah, this is my image. So it's inside the flex. But instead of giving it a width of 16 pixels, I will give it a width of 800 pixels. As you can see here. So right now my content got bigger and my screen got bigger. Now I will go to my container. Let's give it a width of 1300, and the max width will actually be, let's go with 100%. Maybe not on. Let's go with VW, which means the vertical, the V width. Same effect. Awesome. Let's stay with the percentage, and let's go back to the image. So right now my image here has actually. Let me just take this from here, and right now I will change. I will try to resize my flex box. So you can see that the image has a fixed width, so it will not change, but the text doesn't have a width. So the width of the text will follow the width of the parent. And the width of the parent, for example, so if I have 1000 pixels in all the width, the image is already taking 800 pixels, and what's left is 200 pixels. So the text will be inside the 200 pixels. And now it's inside 100 pixels, 15 pixels, etc. So this is really bad. What I can do is, there are two ways to do that. So maybe let's go to the flex and wrap. So the flex wrap property means that the flex doesn't wrap the content. It doesn't have a fixed wrapping. So the default value is no wrap, like this. And you can see it's not wrapping the content. But I can do wrap content. And right now, as you can see, it doesn't look good. Yeah, right here. So right now in the big screen, if the text is taking, so let's add another, let's add width for the text. So it's 300 pixels. Awesome. Like this. So if this space here, what's left is not 300 pixels, the content will be moved to the bottom, like this. And if I go to zoom, it will go back. So this is the flex. Let me do this. So this is the natural flex, which is a row, but the flex box right now, the container is wrapping the content. So if the image is taking 800 pixels and the paragraph needs 300 pixels. So if right now there is 300 pixels on the top or on the right, which is enough. But in case we go below 300 pixels, that content will move to the bottom, which means in a mobile version, the content will be one below one instead of one beside one. So this is actually used in some cases of responsibility. But there are some cases where you can't use that. You can't work with the flex. Maybe you will need, for example, let's try something. Maybe I will need, for example, so for example, I have the color white here, right? And I am assuming in mobile, white is not really clear because the screen is smaller, or maybe the font size. Let's go with the font size. So right now the content has a font size of, or it doesn't have a font size. Okay, let's add a font size. It should have a font size. Let's go with 16 pixels. Yes. Let's actually remove. What is the flex wrap? I removed the flex wrap. No, I did not. So this is the flex wrap, like this. Maybe we just keep it. Let's keep it, yeah. And let's add the max width here. to 100%. So the image will take 800 pixels, but if the screen is small, the image will not take more than 100% of the screen. So right now, this is really responsive for a mobile. But right now, I'm trying to change the font size. For example, here I have a font size of 16 pixels for the content, but I want it to be on mobile. I want it to be 32 pixels. So there is nothing you can do except the media query. And to do a media query, you just write, so media, let's go screen, and you give it a max width. Let's go with the max width of, so for mobile, maybe it's, let's go with 1600 pixels, just to see. Right now, I can apply the styling when the screen size is less than 600 pixels. So right now, I'm going to do the same thing in content. I'm going to select it like this, and I will override the font size. So my font size will be, let's do something big so you can see the difference. So as you can see, this is when the size is more than 600 pixels. It's using the first styling, the default one. Once the max width is 600 pixels, which means all the media or the devices that have a width of less than 600 pixels, which means a mobile. So the size of the font will change to 40 pixels. And this is how you change. So actually you can do, for example, instead of doing a flex wrap, let's remove the flex wrap. And instead of doing that, let's go with this one. And when the max width is 600 pixels, let me select this. And I can do another styling here with the media queries. So I will change the flex direction. And for the flex direction, I will make it a column. Like this. So right now it's working normally. Yeah, but once it's, so the text is actually on the right side of the screen. You can't see it. So actually, yeah, this is the text. But once the size is below 600 pixels of the device, this goes below. Yeah. So right now, the direction for the flexbox changed from the row to a column. And it will be one element beside the other. So you can, for example, you can remove this padding left on the mobile just to something, show you something like a preview use case. So yeah, right now I don't have this. Maybe I will do 22 pixels. Yes. And now I have a mobile version. The other elements does not work with that because they actually have a specific width for them. But yeah, but in my case, this one, so the image is taking 100% and the flex direction is changed. And you can play a lot with the media query. You can do, for example, you can do a min, which means if the width is more than 600 pixels, like this. So this is below 600 pixels. Now it's more than 600 pixels. It will change to it will change the flex direction and do other styling to that. And that's basically the media queries. Looks good. So right now, this is actually all about CSS part. And what I'm going to do right now, I see we have a lot of questions. Let me just check. Yeah. I will take a quick look at the. Awesome. How do we number them? I'm not in context. Yeah, maybe Dania will help with that. So, the nth number. So the nth children. How do you number them? You can do you can do a number. You can add 2, and this means you are selecting the second number. So, for example, here, where is it? Nth number. So instead of 2n, I will do 2. And here I'm selecting the second number. I'm not selecting the 4th one. I'm not selecting the 6th one. But if I do 2n, which means all the children that has the order of 2 times a number. Awesome. So 2n means 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, etc. Awesome. So right now we will, Dania will move you right to the exercises. So we actually have 5 exercises. Let me just actually, if I can show you. Yeah, I think I can show you here. I will just show you in my screen. So I prepared some HTML here, and you have 3 kinds of exercises. So the first section, which is the X one, is for the selectors. The second one is for the display, right? And another exercise about the position and the box model exercise, like that. And as you can see here, I'm already linking the style.css. And you can see here there are 2 files. Don't go to the solution yet. Don't see the solution. I already have solution for that. So if I add the solution, for example, you will see all the changes that are required in these exercises. So right now, let's go with style. So you can all go to this exercise. Inside the style.css, you will find what you need to do. So the first one, for example, change the color of all paragraphs that are children of X1. Change the size of the first heading that is the child of X1, and so on. So you will be having 15 minutes in every syntax. No, actually, so if you are naming your container, having the class container, can you post the link? Actually, it's in the exercise. You will find it as an action button on the bottom left. Yeah. And I can do another thing. I can help you with that. So will we review the answers at the end? So right now you have 15 minutes. Try to work as much as you can. So start with the first question and go on. And at the end, we will have a poll to see how many questions you got. And if you guys need a quick solution for that, I can show you the solution. So it all depends on the poll. We will do the poll later. So right now it's 4:44 here, and you have 15 minutes. So we meet at we meet in 15 minutes. We are in different countries, and after the exercise, I think we spent too much time on the workshop. So I will be showing you Tailwind, like a quick intro to Tailwind, and then if you guys are interested in seeing the solution for the container, we can go through that. The solution for the exercise. And time is up. Let's get back to our workshop. And please, there is a new poll. You guys can answer it. How many questions did you got? And you can say in this chat how were the exercises. I see some 5, I see some 2, I see some 3s. Number 3. Did well, guys. Nice. So it was like the exercises were only like something basic, like very simple. They are not really complicated with content and stuff like that. So it's only to train yourselves on the different properties and positioning that we talked about. And you did really well, guys. I don't know if we should go through the exercises for correction. Should we go through them? All right, since you guys have questions and stuff like that, Claire, please drop your question and awesome. Let's go through that. Let's go through that really fast. So the first exercise. Actually, let me just take your answer, Claire, and I'm going to put it in the third one here, like that. And yeah, let's see if it works or not. Awesome. So let's start with the first example. So change the color of all paragraphs that are children of the x1. So the first thing is that you need to select the element that has class x1, and then I'm going to select all the paragraphs. So like this, and I'm going to change the color of all paragraphs. So let's do a random color. So to change the color for the text, it's the color, and let's give it value of red, maybe red. Let's go with red. Actually, I did not. This is the style.csn. Yeah. So as you can see here, all the paragraphs that are children of x1 change the color to red. So let's go to the next thing. Change the size. Let me just reduce the size of this one. So change the size of the first heading of level 1, which means h1. That is a child of x1. Awesome. We are changing the size. So let's select the x1 first with the class, and then we will select the first heading, which is h1, like this. And then we will change the font size. So let's do a font size. And let's give it 40 pixels, for example. And here is the first heading size. Actually, let's do 60 so you can see the difference. Awesome. So let's go to the third question. So it says align all paragraphs that are children of x2. Awesome. In same line. So we will align them in the same line and center them horizontally. And let's take the response from from Claire. So, and actually make sure there is 8 pixel space between them. I see clearly you did a gap of 8 pixels, which is amazing. The display is flex. So once the display is flex, actually you don't need to do flex direction because the flex direction is by default a row. So even if we remove that, it will work. And the reason why it did not work is because actually you don't need, in this case, you don't need to add styling to the paragraphs, but you need to add the styling to X2. So this P is not needed. Yes, and yeah, instead of doing red, let's go with green. I don't know why it's changing. So X1 and yeah, here I added the background red. Dun, dun. Why it did change? So my bad, my bad. So this is not actually an article; it's a div. But it will work the same way. So right now I am selecting X2 and adding a display to the parent and not the children. So I'm adding a display flex to the parent, and with that the children will be affected by that display. So they are displayed in one row because the flex direction is by default on a row. And then you added this property, which is gap, which is a property for the display. And by gap 8 pixels, which means the distance between them is 8 pixels. And of course, you can do like, well, since the elements are all in the same line and they are on the left, you can do something like this. It won't work really well, but we can do it. It doesn't work. Margin. No, it's not actually for this. So you either add a gap for the parent, which means in the parent that has a display flex, the gap of the elements that are flexed inside, the distance between them will be 8 pixels. And if we try to do it in another way, we can do an X2, this paragraph. So I am selecting all the paragraphs, and then I'm going to do margin right and give it the value of 8 pixels. So I can remove the gap right now, and it's supposed to have the same effect. So it's either we add a gap to the parent flex, or we add a margin right to inside the element. Awesome. So another thing we can do, let me just check if there are any questions. X2 flex justify. Yeah. I forgot that thing. Thank you. So we actually need to justify all the paragraphs. Make sure there is 8 pixels between them. Align them vertically to put them in the center of their parent. And to align them vertically, since this is a row, we align them with the align items. But if we want to align them horizontally, we can do a justify. We can align them horizontally also. But the thing that was requested is actually justify content. Align items. So we can also align them horizontally with the justify content. This is horizontally, which was not requested in our exercise. To put them in the center of the parent. Awesome. So another thing, position the blue square on top of its parent. So let's go to our HTML. So X2, we already done with that. And let's go to X3. So we have a section, which is the green part. And we have the blue part, which is the blue square. Awesome. So to do that, we first need to add a position relative to the parent, which means X3. And let's do a position and make it relative. Like that. So right now, the position of the parent is relative. And now I can add a position absolute to the child. So let's do an X3. And it says the blue square. So if we go to the blue square, right now there is only one child, which is a div. So we can actually do a div. Yes. Or we can add something which is this symbol, and this means div that is a direct child of the X3. So if we have a div inside the div, the second div is not a direct child. But if we do something like that, even if we have a div inside the div, both the divs will be affected by the styling that we have. So let's do something like that. And we should add a position, which is absolute. Right now, this position is relative to the parent because the parent has a position relative. Awesome. And nothing happens because the left is 0 and the top is 0. And what it says, position the blue square on top of its parent. So the left will be left the same, and we need to change the top. And of course, maybe let's go here. We have the height of 16 pixels. We can do it simply by adding top minus 16 pixels. And the, how do you call it? Yeah, the blue square will be on top of. Sometimes you might find that you can try this 100%. Yeah, but it has this 100% has some issues because it's 100%. The 100% here is the size of the parent and not the blue square. So the best thing you need to do is 16 pixels, which is the size of this square, like this. Awesome. And the second thing is center X3 horizontally without changing the display. So let's do that. Let's select X4, pardon. This. And I want to put it in the center. So one thing I told you about in the box model is that you, for example, this is the, I will show you like, I will show you the default value right now. So it's margin right. Nothing will change. If I do a margin left auto, the element will move to the right. And this thing is auto. So if I want to put it in the center, I need to do the margin left auto and the margin right auto. So I can do a margin inline, which means the right and the left, and put it as auto. And now my element will be centered. And then add a padding of 12 pixels to the purple square. Let's take a look at our purple square. Yeah, and the purple square is actually the X4, so it's the same thing. And let's do a padding of 12 pixels. Yeah, it got bigger. And that's all. This is actually the solution for all the 5 exercises. So this is just so you can learn something about the display and how to use it in real use cases. For example, can we do margin 0 auto? So you said let's do margin 0 auto. Yeah, it's supposed to, it would normally work because the top and bottom is 0 and the left right is auto. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. You did amazing job. I can already see like there are a lot of 3 answers, 2 answers, 5. Some people got 5. That's amazing. And yeah, just to show you like one last thing, and this will be like really amazing to you guys because it's really amazing to me. I will just show you. So I'm going to go here. So you just awesome. Oops. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to delete. So actually, I have an index 2. Let me just go to index 2. I am selecting index 1. Let's go to index 2. And as you can see, my website here, it basically has some of the same styling. And this is just to show you the capability. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it with, I will remove this one, this script. Like this. And if I remove it, nothing will work. All right. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove the class of the body, the class of this part here, and the class of, and let's remove this class also. Oops, boom. This one also, and it's really hard. Let's go with that, and let's go with that. So yeah, let's keep it this way and keep the styling for other ones. Perfect. And right now I'm going to show you what is the capability of Tailwind. So right now, if I go here and I'm going to use Gripper, so I'm going to add Tailwind. And actually there are a way to add like some libraries to So for example, when you create your own style.css, to add it, you basically add the link here. Yeah, you basically add the link and add the URL. And this URL is actually local. So for your inside your own folder. But if you get something from online, for example, I will get this Tailwind CDN. And this is actually Tailwind. So right now I can add Tailwind CSS, but using a link. Because if you go to this link here, acceding, you will find all the CSS for Tailwind. So Tailwind basically is a framework, and it's, you can see for now, you can see it as a ready to use CSS. So you basically, all the CSS for all elements is already created. Now what you need to do from your part is basically adding Tailwind. So I'm going to add the added Tailwind CSS from the CDN. And this link I took it from online, and this will be a lot faster. So let's open our style tool like that. So right now let's start with the body. I'm having a background color of black, right? So I don't need to add this. I only need to go index. I will go to the body and add a class. So this class will be, so background is abbreviation is BG, and then I'm going to make it black. 1 second, background BG. Yeah, actually, let's do something. Maybe we should add a value. Weird. BG black. It's not working. Let's go with red. Ah, my bad. We actually need to add Tailwind to the second file. Right now, I can remove this and I can make the background black. Awesome. Another style is the color. It should be white. And the color class inside Tailwind is text white, as simple as this. Now my text is white. And as you can see, this is a lot faster. And so for the font family, let's keep it this way because it's actually a setting inside Tailwind. Let's skip that for now. And maybe we can add a padding. So for the padding, it's a P. And we can give it a value of 8. Right now, it's 8 in padding. If I want to padding left and right, I can do PX. If I want it top, bottom, I can do PY. So it's PY and PX, just like this. So let's go with PX for now. And then I'm going to go into the second one, which is my navigation. Yeah, actually, this is my container. So I will add a class to the container. And it's the same thing. For example, I have a width of 1,300 pixels. So I will add a width, which is W. Then I'm going to have a dash, and I'm going to give it a value between these brackets. So it's awesome. Let's do a max width, max width, and let's give it a value of 100%. And 100% is actually full in inside Tailwind. So as you can see, now the max width is 100%. Then I will go to the section. So container done, navbar. Oops, cancel. So let's go to the navbar, and I have display flex, a space between, and the position relative. Right? Actually, I don't need the position relative. Yeah, this is an old one. So display flex, justify, space between. So yes, flex. Oops, I added in the wrong place. Yeah, let's go to the nav and class, and let's add flex. So this means I'm adding a CSS style, which is display flex. This is basically Tailwind. So, and why it's called a framework? Because you need to follow the syntax. Because you need to follow its syntax. So this is flex. I can do justify content, space between. So it's justify between, as easy as that. Add the padding. Let's do padding. For example, let's add the padding PY, make it 16. And let's add the padding X, Actually, no padding X. Let's keep it with the padding Y. 16 is 2 months. Let's do an 8, something like that. You can go to chocolate, class, and to change the font size is actually text dash, and you can name the size. So in Tailwind, there are a lot of sizes. So you can do SM, which is small, and you can see the size is small. We can do XL, which is really big. We can do even 8XL, which is really, really big. And it goes actually, I think it goes till 9. But for our case, let's go with 2XL, something like that. And again, let's go to the navbar. So for the navbar, we don't have any. For example, here, I want to add spacing between these elements. So I can do that. I can add a class. I can do a space X, which means space horizontally. And let's go with 12. So right now we have 12 pixels between all the elements inside the navbar. And this is actually Tailwind. But if you want to use it more, like you need to understand it more. So what I already recommend is that first you need to go through to the CSS. Once you are getting used to CSS, once you get you have the properties in your head, so this will be easier. Working with Tailwind will be a piece of cake. So background, you will know that it's BG. A text, you will add the text white. And even if you don't know them, you can basically go to Tailwind. Here, you can hit Control key or Command key, and you can write what you want. So for example, I want a background color. Background image, background size, background position. Where is the background color? It's okay. Let's go with background image, for example. And here you will have all the classes for that. So even if you want a gradient one, for example, I can take this code here. I can steal this code here. And let's go to the background. Yeah, just to show you like the effect. Awesome. And let's type it right here. And right now I have a gradient background. As easy as it is. Awesome. And this is actually Tailwind. Of course, it has a lot of other features, right? It has many features, but the basic thing about it is that all the classes are ready to use. What's not good about it, or everything else, of course, there is a poll. If you guys are really interested in Tailwind, yeah, but of course, after you go through the CSS and stuff like that. But if you are really interested in Tailwind, please let us know. We can do a specific workshop for that. One beautiful thing about it, for example, I will just show you. I'm sorry, I'm so excited for that. So for example, here I have my links. Actually, let's remove the last styling. Let's keep it black. I have my links here. And for example, let's go to the first link, or maybe here. Let's go to the navbar. So I have a text. I will make it yellow. It's not working because I need another value. So this is how yellow it is. So right now I want it 500. It can be 800, and it can be 200. And it changed. So I want it 500 because I love this color. So these are the 3 colors, right? But if I have a mobile screen, right? So I want it. I want it to be red in mobile, right? And if I have a screen that is bigger than mobile, so I will do SM and SM 2 points. So small screen, and I can add another class, which means yellow. 500. So right now I'm in mobile, but if so this is the small screen, and this is bigger than the small screen. I can do a medium, which means bigger than tablet. So if we go until we reach the tablet, so this is a tablet, and from here it becomes yellow. And you can do anything. You can change the width, you can change the display, you can do everything. And this is what I love actually about Tailwind, because it makes the working so much faster. Awesome. I think that's all for Tailwind. So this is the basic thing. It has a lot of features, but they are a little bit somehow complicated. But yeah, if you are interested in doing a workshop specific for that, just fill the poll and we can see if we can do that. Awesome. So let's move to another thing. So yeah, this is actually, let's end things here. post exercise. We already did that. And I'm going to talk right now about the next step. So as I told you guys, we already have a lot of bootcamps in Code Labs Academy. And of course, like if you are like self-learner and you want to go through self-learning, because I went through that before, and the hardest thing is finding a roadmap, something to work on, is having someone to guide you through that, a mentor who shows you the practical things that you need to do, and someone who guides you to your career, how do you call it? Yeah, your career, your professional career. So in Coders Academy, we actually provide all of that and plus many other things. You can go to our website and check everything we provide. And for the next step, you can actually, if you are really interested in one of the bootcamps that we provide, you can apply right there. And of course, this is not the final application. So you basically will be selecting which format works for you. If you want to work in part-time, if you already have a job, or maybe you are a student and you need to have a part-time schedule that fits with that. If you want to go to our campus in Berlin and learn there, or maybe you want to learn remotely for your location. Of course, it might help us a lot if you just fill the polls, just so you know what interests you more, guys. So once you apply for that, you will have different sessions slots, and once you select a session, you will have how do you call it? You will have a quick call with scheduled quick call with our general manager, and at that point, he will be answering all your questions in case you have any questions about every bootcamp. And also you might be like you don't know what you want to learn or what fits your career, so this all can be answered through that one-on-one call. And of course, we provide also all the financing options, so you don't have to pay in one go. You can pay through installment up to 36 months, as I said before, with our partners GoCardless, Noma, Kotanda. You can check them out. You can check our courses. And of course, we don't do only courses. So we also do free workshops similar to this workshop. And yeah, at the end, you will be redirected to our page to see the upcoming workshops, of course. And one thing that really will be a great feedback. So we actually prepared a small form. Yeah, so Dania will be sending you this form right now, I think, in actions. And yeah, let's get the resources. So just give us your feedback about this workshop, what we can make better in this workshop, and not just this workshop. If you have other suggestions for future workshops, if you want to see something, if you saw something not good in this workshop, just to help us work on that, so we can provide and do a lot and better workshops in the future. And of course, you can contact us through our website if you have any more questions or you want to chat. Awesome. So for the resources, what I recommend is that you go to these two websites. So we have Front End Practice, the one that I took the challenge from, and there is another website which is Front End Mentor. And basically, they give you some challenges just to work on the UI. So HTML, CSS, you can go with beginner and go right into advanced, where you can learn there and train on your skills in CSS and HTML. And of course, they will give you all the resources, the images that you need, etc. So yeah, I really recommend that. And yeah, if you have any questions, please, I can see the chat. Are there any questions that were not answered? Awesome. Thank you, Claire. Thank you for attending. Let's wait if there are any questions. Like if you have any questions about today's sessions, this is the perfect time to answer those. Thank you, Mary. Let's give it more 2 minutes. If you are thinking, maybe you have something was really confusing. Thank you, Ashraf. Awesome. Well, we can say that there are no questions. Awesome. So one last thing. Thank you so much for attending. Yeah, let's skip the let's skip this. So thank you so much for attending, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And actually, I apologize because it took like more time than it was meant to take. I hope it was really informative, and yeah, please don't forget to leave us your feedback to make better workshops and to make better content in the future. And one last thing, right now you will be directed to the workshops. So inside the website, you can actually register for those websites so you don't miss it, and you will get a notification once the workshop is close to happen. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dania, for co-hosting this workshop with me. It was really helpful. And I hope you got all your questions answered. I see that a lot of questions were answered in the chat. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, have a great end of day.